The pessimist complains about the wind, the optimist expected it to change, the realist adjusts the sails. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for our honorable judges, a lovely committee, and our opponents. My name is Getsa Shafaratoldia from SMAN, Jakarta, and our team stands at the opposition side. We disagree with lockdown. We think that it will not effectively stop the pandemic spread in Indonesia. Today we will debate with emotions. This house believes that lockdown can effectively stop the pandemic spread in Indonesia. Before moving to what the setup and the argument, we will explain to you about the team's distributions. We will bring three arguments consists of me guys as the first speaker will bring the first argument, which is why we don't need lockdown at the very first place, with two layers. The first layer is the layer of the status quo conditions, and the second layer is how our mechanism will effectively works. My second speaker, Alia Latifa Putri, will bring the second argument, which is why lockdown will not work and the likelihood of it, and also consists of two layers. The first layer is why there is no likelihood to do lockdown and why it will be not effective, and the second layer is how can our side has more likelihood to do PPKM. My third speaker, Elena Yafita, will explain about the third argument, which is the last argument about what are the impacts of the lockdown with two layers. The first layer is how the lockdown will harm the society, and the second layer is about the government obligations. Now, welcome to our setup. What is our mechanism? So our mechanism is we want to implement PPKM with regulation. We will limit the social interaction, such as we still implement the health protocols like social distancing, wearing masks, always wash our hand, and etc. And for the working environment regulation will be divided into two. So the first one is for the job that must be done directly, and the system will be offline, such as for the blue collar workers, for example the cleaning service with 50% capacity maximum of the workers and the maximum workings of 7 hours. And the second is the rest of the people will work at their home with online system, such as the civil servant that is in the country administration division and other workers that are required to go outside to fulfill their job obligations. Unlike the lockdown, people will be locked at their home for 2 weeks in a row. They cannot go outside, even for the blue collar workers, so they aren't able to fulfill their working responsibility, and able to leads them not to get paid panels, and we will have more strict regulation, and under our side of the house, punishment for people who don't follow the health protocol will still exist as the check and balance. Our side has the same goals as the government team. Because we want to protect the Indonesian citizen, but we think that our side can protect the citizen better because our side of the house we will protect them in a very crucial aspect, and that will be explained in my arguments panels. So because of that, we are proud to oppose. Moving on to my argument, why we don't need lockdown at the very first place. Let's say about the status quo conditions, which is my first layer. In the status quo condition, we know that Indonesia has distributed thousands of vaccines in all layers of society, starting from the student above 12 and the adults are able to get the vaccine in their nearest hospitals. Indonesian government already has the regulation for free vaccines, so people from middle to lower class able to get the access to these vaccines. And also this proves to you that slowly Indonesia, slow but sure, will distribute vaccine to every citizen that able to get it. And there are also applications like Jaki and also Peduli Lindungi. This app is very necessary for us, knowing that now this government already has the regulation. If people want to enter mall, they have to show their vaccine certificate. And this already proves to you that the government already make a progressive regulation where they can recap the society's data about the vaccine. So the likelihood of irresponsible people not get caught is very small on our side of the house. In our status quo, government are also very strict to maintain the main health protocols. Like for example, Anis and the Jakarta government closed and punished the Holy Wings because they break the PPKM regulations. Our worst case scenario, it is maybe inconvenient for people in rural area knowing the vaccine still aren't able to get the certain area, but we think that it is okay knowing that in rural area cases aren't that much as the big cities, and we think the check and balance still exists, and moreover the people in big cities contribute more to Indonesia's economy, so this is just the panels. And moving on to my second layer about how our mechanism can effectively work. We will have to monetary regulations for the society if they break the PPKM rules, such as if they gather outside to make a crowded situation and even they didn't wear masks. The first is for the society, we will charge them with the good amount of money with a big nominal, and for the second, for the public places, we will close their shop and we will charge them their profit because they break the PPKM rules. By this, we can send the message to the society that government is serious and form of handling COVID. Regardless you do small things, you will still get punishment panels. So why by our side of the house mechanism can give the society the trans effect or the fear feeling, so they will not break the PPKM rules because of the two reasons. The first is the economic and the status quo. But we can see by the status quo, people are suffering to fulfill their basic needs because the economic movement are slow during the pandemics, and as the result, we cannot maximize the economic activities during the pandemics. As we know, the money is a primary needs, and people are suffering to get it in the status quo panels. Because of that, people are suffering to get money nowadays. Business owner will try as hard as they could to maintain their business, and they're scared to go because they're scared to go bankrupt. They will not break the regulation because they don't want their business to get shut by the government, right? Because if their shop got shut, they will not able to get money, and it's hard to make a new business in nowadays panels in the status quo. So also I will bring the preemptive. If they say that this is not exclusive, we say no, this is will be exclusive in our side of the house, because the regulation will not exist at the very first place, because they will lock all the society and stuff, so they will not able to get to go outside the house. And also for the deterrence effect, and also the fear fields will exclusive in our side of the house, because we have this kind of mechanism, we have these regulations, not like their side of the house, they don't have this regulation panels, so this is exclusive in our side of the house.
Judges, here I will explain about how there is no likelihood to the lockdown and how lockdown itself is really ineffective. I'm Aliyah, and I'll bring the second argument, which is why lockdown will not work and the likelihood. My argument will consist of two layers. First layer, why there is no likelihood to the lockdown and why it would not be effective, and second layer is how can our state have more likelihood to do PPKM. Starting from the first layer, there is no likelihood to the lockdown. Before I explain about how Indonesia didn't have the likelihood to implement lockdown policies, we need to know the parameter of country that can implement the lockdown. Some countries like Italian, German, Korean, New Zealand, etc., known for implementing these policies. This country already fulfill their parameter, which is to have stable economic conditions, or in other words, rich countries. They already have money segmentations or saving for an emergency situation, which is why this country can fulfill their citizen needs, even though working activities are being limited. They can ensure their citizen basic needs by sending them foods and grocery directly to their house. With this, we believe that Indonesia itself are far from the parameter, which means the lockdown policies will not be effective on our countries. Knowing that we are developing countries where our economic conditions depends on their citizen activities and working mobilities, implementing lockdown will only worsen our economic conditions. Furthermore, Indonesia didn't have enough money segmentations on emergency situations to fulfill their citizen needs. Indonesia have to allocate their money to at least the three main things, which is for the healthcare and services, social safety nets, and business stimulus like UMKM. With this clearly stated on how Indonesia is not ready for lockdown, because we have limited sources to fulfill their citizen needs, because we need to prioritize allocating our money for things mentioned before. If the government restrict people to work outside and making income for their own life, while cannot ensure their citizen with basic needs, then the government have failed to fulfill their obligation, which is a really bad thing. Moreover, restricting people from working will also worsen the economic conditions, and have been proven by other developing countries like Philippines and Malaysia that have implemented lockdown before. From news, we can see that Philippines admit upon the ineffectiveness of lockdown policies and are trying to imitate Indonesia on making less strict rules like PPKM. This clearly shows on how lockdown is not effective way to solve COVID-19 and how it's just worsened the status quo until other countries like Philippines trying to follow our mechanism to just do PPKM without lockdown itself, right? When developing countries restrict people from going to work, limiting market to work, or industry to make product itself, then the economic conditions will go downhill. Lastly, lockdown itself have been proven not effective to decrease the number of patients, which means the goal of the government sides will not be achievable by the end of the day. Even in countries that have implemented lockdown, like Italy for example, they still have increasement in cases with up to 4 million people affected, and a lot of people die because of COVID-19 itself. We think it's enough to prove to you that in the end of the day, lockdown will not be effective to work in Indonesia. Moreover, we think that the mechanism on their side of the house will only give you a short-term benefits, which is not effective at all. We believe that COVID or virus is something that you cannot control. You can't control the virus to not infect you, right? Moreover, we're having more COVID variants like Beta, Alpha, Delta, and all these viruses spread very easily, such as through air. If we implement the lockdown for about 2 weeks and the virus still exists, then we think it will be useless anyway. There's no guarantee that when you do lockdown, the virus will disappear, right? Lockdown is just to prevent COVID, but not solving the COVID problem. In the end of the day, when the lockdown finishes and the society are able to do activities again, we still think that there will be raising of cases. There's a big likelihood for society to get infected again because the virus still exists and not yet disappear. Unlike on our side of the house, we at least have a progressive status quo where people would still do their activities and economy would still work. On to my second layer about how can our side have more likelihood. Firstly, we think that PPKM is enough to get the spreading of a pandemic. On status quo, we still have PPKM until right now, right? And even if the government said that this is ineffective or the pandemic itself will not end anytime soon if we still use PPKM, we think that it is wrong. Because we can see that with PPKM, we can go from level 4 into level 3, which means the status quo itself is quite progressive, where PPKM is enough to decrease the COVID cases. So we think there's no urgency on their side of the house to do lockdowns because knowing that PPKM is working. Secondly, about likelihood in citizens. Judges, we categorize citizens into two characteristics: the one that are aware with the pandemic conditions and the one that are not. For the people that are aware with the pandemic conditions, we believe that even with less strict rules, they will follow the protocols well. For the ones that are not aware, we believe that our mechanism will still be effective because we will implement punishments like money fine for that people who didn't follow the protocols. Preemptive that the government team says that this is not exclusive. We believe that our side of the house is still better because this shows that we didn't need to sacrifice our economic situations to handle COVID, unlike their side of the house. Even in the worst case, if there is still people that are stubborn enough to not follow the protocols, we believe that it is not really our burden to prove how to handle these people, because on the government teams also, they cannot cater these people as well, right? Those kind of people would go out or not follow protocol regardless. But we still believe that our side of the house is still better by the end of the day, because on our side of the house, we tried our best by providing mechanism that will work on society because there's deterrence effect, and by the end of the day, we can still create better and progressive status quo than the government teams. With all that intention, we believe that by the end of the day, effectiveness and likelihood would stand on our side. If you want to progress with status quo, then you should vote for our side. I'm so proud to oppose. Thank you.
Lockdown is not as simple as government side thing. We still need to take a look on our condition. Are Indonesia ready and in society ready to do lockdown? I'm Elena, as third speaker will deliver the last argument, which is what are the impacts of lockdown with two layers. On first layer, I will talk about why lockdown will harming Indonesia, but on second layer, I will explain about government obligation. Moving on to my first layer, why lockdown will harming Indonesia. We think there is no effective result from lockdown, like we can see China, France, England will having the second lockdown. Okay, maybe at the beginning it's effective on their best case scenario, but we think the impact is only on short term, and in the end of the day, it will harming society and country too. Why lockdown will harming Indonesia? 2 points. A, harming society. In the end of the day, it will harming society where majority on middle to lower class panels. A lot of society in Indonesia lives depend on daily work where they have to go outside of the house to work, like Gojek, Grab, blue collar workers. This is problematic panels. These workers are vulnerable. Moreover, they are not as smart as white collar workers who at the very first place more trained and having more skills. Maybe white collar workers already used to use technology like Microsoft Excel, Word, etc. But please notice that these blue collar workers are not panels. There are limitations to these blue collar workers where they don't get enough education and the effort they do is only in the form of energy, not skills. It's not fair when they are not able to work from home and they have to lose their job, right? Their side need to explain more about the likelihood, because we think it's impossible for them to do lockdown if they are not trained well, not adapt with technology, right? We think if government side let that happen, it means their side are evil. And the comparison, why under our side of the house it will be better? Because we only did PPKM, right? Not a total lockdown where society are need to stay home and prohibit to go outside of the house. It means under our side, this majority of society are still able to go outside to work and get salary. Besides that, we still can stop the pandemic spread without the lockdown itself, because under our side, society still have to following health protocols. For preemptive, even if government side argue that they will provide and subsidize society's needs like rice, etc. to society when lockdown, 2 points why it would not work. Firstly, because government will consider a lot of cost for every citizen. Government will consider this because government afraid that there are no money left that can be used again when the lockdown is over. Moreover, Indonesia still have a lot of debt to other country. We think in the end of the day, Indonesia could go bankrupt on their side of the house. But secondly, even if government agree that Indonesia can ask for a loan from another country or World Bank like IMF, we think it's not possible to. Knowing that every country in this world impacted by the pandemic. So Indonesia cannot ask help from another country too. We have to depend on our self-panels. B, harming countries' economic. We think there is a big likelihood why in the end of the day, on their side, economic condition in Indonesia will fall. Knowing that if we talk on their scenario where we're doing lockdown for 2 weeks, it will make sectors that related to majority of society, such as retail, transportation, hospitality, and restaurants, contract quite deeply because there will be not economic activities. Society cannot do economic activities because they have to lock at home, right? The fact is that government team need to realize that these economic activities contributes for percentage of GDP and determines the national economy. It means when there is a reduction of society's economic activities, the result is that GDP will decrease too. If the GDP is weak and decrease step by step, it means there will be a recession of economic in Indonesia, which means it will be harming for the country itself and make economic condition drop. But second layer, government obligation. We think every society deserves right to earn income to fulfill their daily needs, and it will be exclusively achieved only under our side of the house. Where we didn't stop the economic activities, it means society are still able to get welfare, right? On their side, society will protest about the lockdown because society know it could and it would harming them. They will think that government are failed to protect them in the end of the day because government cannot guarantee that they are able to pay all society's funding, society's needs when lockdown, right? Their side need to prove to us why there is a likelihood for society to agree with government mechanism with lockdown. It means on their side, government will lose trust from society. Society will most likely not put their trust again on government because government has failed to protect them, to understand their condition, which means it does not fit the government interest. Understand that government is having interest to get trust from society, to get good name in front of every citizen so that they can re-elected or chosen again in the next election. But we think in the end of the day, their side will not able to achieve that because society already disappointed with government. So this benefit is only exclusive under our side of the house. Even if under our side of the house, the progress to stop the pandemic spread is kinda slow and step by step, at least we didn't sacrifice society's well-being. That's why if you want to harming society, just vote for them. But if you want to protect society, vote for our team because we can create a betterment for society in the end of the day. We are so proud to oppose. Thank you.
So now, we think that at the end of the day, based on our arguments, preemptive and analysis, we've proven to you 4 points. The first is we explained to you why status quo is more than enough, why there's no urgency to do lockdown right now, and we offer to you the effective mechanism that will give the society deterrence effect to follow the PPKM rules. We give to you step-by-step analysis, reasons, and we prove to you the why it will not be exclusive under our and why it will be exclusive under our side of the house. Our benefit and our mechanism will not achieve in their side of the house. And second is why our side believe that at the end of the day, lockdown will not effectively stop the pandemic spread in Indonesia. And please notice that at our side already bringing a comparison, we explained to you about the impacts, about the likelihood, and we think that there is no likelihood to do lockdown because Indonesia didn't fulfill the parameter of countries that can do lockdown, and even the we provide you with the characteristic of society panels. We also prove to you that our worst case scenario, and we successfully prove to you that under our worst case scenario, our side is still better. About the society conditions, we told you that why at the end of the day, lockdown will harming the economic condition in Indonesia by explaining to stakeholder with point of view which are the harm for the society and the country. This harm is something is legit exclusive in their side of the house panels, so you should not buy their arguments, right? So let's say about the government obligation. We think that their side failed to fulfill the government obligation to protect the society, and it is not justified when they abandon their obligation, right? We give you to you comparison why at the end of the day government obligation will achieve better in our side of the house. So if you care better for the society condition, for our country's economy, vote for us. And we believe that all of our benefit that we offer to you is exclusive, so you can only achieve it in under our side of house. We are so proud to oppose. Thank you.